Welcome, and thanks for joining me today on Mortgage Manager Playbook, a podcast for sales leaders who want to improve their team's sales performance and originate more loans. I'm Pat Sherlock, your host. Today's topic is really important. What key sales activities are critical today? And I have the perfect expert, and I'm excited to talk to him, is John Overfelt. John is Director of Sales and an owner of American Security Mortgage Corp. And prior to that, he's had a long career in mortgage banking, guaranteed rate, Wells, and other well-known mortgage companies. John, welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here. I'm a fan from a long time ago, Pat. I heard about you when I was working at Wells Fargo. I think in 2016 I started following you. So
Uh, well,
calling
I
it
appreciate
persistent.
that. Yeah, I
Yes.
appreciate that. And I'm glad we got to meet and talk. And so, anyway, and we're certainly in sync with our ideas. But let's talk about how did you get into the mortgage world and share that with our audience today.
Well, I come from a family of salespeople. So I knew in college I was going to be in sales because the guys I played golf with drove nice cars and they play golf every afternoon. So I was like, this sales is where I'm going. And my mom happened to be a realtor. So I was working in a sales job I did not like when I graduated college. I was a food broker through college,
Mhm.
and then went to work in a cemetery. Which that's if you can sell that, you can sell anything. But my mom was a realtor, so I pulled up to her house one day. Her loan officer was there, and this is going to sound shallow, but it's a true story. Her loan officer was driving a nice Mercedes. I said, "What does that person do?" My mom said, "She's my loan officer." I said, "Can I get an interview with her? I hate my job." My mom said, "You don't want to be a loan officer. That's a hard job. I work this person to death." And I said, "I got to do something else besides this." So her loan officer took me underneath her wings. That was at GMAC, in
Mhm.
1999, and off I went.
Well, that's an interesting story. I need to hear more about the cemetery job, but that's for another podcast for another day. So you're a part owner and you're actually a head of sales, and I thought this was a great combination to talk about your challenges today.
Yeah, I think from my seat, my challenges, I would speak from being in the seat that I'm in today is you got to be able to say no. You don't want to take on too many projects, and people come to me all the time with different offerings. For it could be tech, it could be it could be anything, right? But you got to be able to say no. You can only execute on so much. The second one would be probably change management. Like we're how do you get the sales team to adapt and to change to new markets, new techniques, new technology? That's hard. So those have been my two biggest challenges: is saying no and change management.
Well, I think that's true with many managers for sure, but I'm interested in your thoughts on what topics do you think mortgage bankers should be focusing on, but really are not.
It's going to sound basic, but what's tried is true. So I think there's two things I could tell a loan officer they should focus on would be you need to prospect consistently. That's your number one job is to make the phone ring. End of story. The hardest thing in the mortgage business is recruiting's one. The second thing is actually getting a loan. So you have to do that all the time. I think the second thing you need to be working on is sales skills, techniques. I mean, call it the old will of the sales cycle, prospect, making connections, are you qualifying, making an offer, overcoming objections, trying to close the borrower. If you can't close them, are you bringing up what the real objection is and overcoming it? I think that is missing from a lot of LOs these days, sales techniques and consistently prospecting.
Well, I agree with you that 100%, and I see it every day in training classes for sure. So when you look at your firm, and of course it's well known for its high productivity, talk about what are your kind of important priorities for this year?
Well, first one is we want to grow. We need to grow with the right people. We also need to retain who we have. One of our claims to fame is our retention of loan officers is a lot higher than the industry standard, and it's not by accident. We re-recruit our people every day by doing a bunch of different things. So that's one. Retention's a big deal. Growing with the right people. We're not looking for headcount. We're looking for people that fit our model and who can have success here. So that would be the one. The second one is making sure that LOs are developing a value proposition. All right, what is their unique value proposition? Why is somebody going to do business with John Overfelt. They have to have that today. Everybody's rates are about the same. Everybody's products are about the same. You have to be able to differentiate yourself from somebody else. And with social media and all the information that's out there today, the consumer wants to connect with you on another level. And that's how they're going to do that is whatever value you're actually bringing. So for the first 2 quarters, that is a big emphasis here at American Security, is helping the LOs, the team, and everybody come up with a value proposition that they can rehearse, know inside and out, and really figure out who they are and why they're in the business.
Well, I agree with you 100%. Actually, that was the topic in the training class today. So I can definitely say it's a topic that I don't see. It's incredible to me that many loan officers don't think about this, but this is really about selling 101 for sure, which I think is a good segue into talking about our main topic today, John. And certainly, what key sales activities do you see that the better producers are doing that the other folks are not?
Yeah, so we do top producer roundtables across the state of North Carolina where we bring top producers together and we talk about, hey, what's working and what's not working. And in this group, on the low side, the producers are doing 18 million. On the high side, they're doing 85 million. Units range from 60 to 176 units. So the information I'm about to give you came from that group and also came from American Security loan officers. At American Security, we'll close about 1.2 billion with around 65 loan officers. So these guys operate at a high level. I only mention that because I'm not doing the loans. I'm getting this information from the people that are, all right? So it's coming from a valid source. So it's a number of different things, all culminating in success. One, they're calling on listing agents and the buyer's agent. If you're connecting with the listing agent, even if the listing agent can't send you business, if they know who you are and they get your pre-approval letter and they recognize your name, is going to help get the contract accepted. And everybody knows inventory is our biggest issue. It'll be our biggest issue moving forward this year and years to come. So if you can help get contracts, one, that is a value add to your partners. Two, the younger LOs, they're honing in on first-time home buyers, newer agents, and it's paying off because those demographics are the ones that are buying a lot of the houses. They're not locked into an interest rate that they don't want to give up. They're easier to work with. They're more loyal. So seeing some of that. A lot of these top producers are also doing products that they haven't done in years or they would normally not do. Example, Pat, that would be like bond loans. It used to be a top producer would pass a bond loan off to somebody else within the organization. They're not doing that now. These guys are hunkering down. They're learning how to do the bond loans and executing on them. Bank statement loans, all the non-QM stuff, home equities, right? We've seen uptick in people doing home equities, even though that's not really a money maker. It's a way to capture the customer. So they're doing products that they don't normally use. I think the biggest thing that this group was doing that jumps out to me, and a lot of this is basic, but the basics work. They're getting face-to-face. They're not hiding behind a phone or social media. They're actually getting face-to-face via events. They're doing lunch and learns. They're doing networking events. They're doing book clubs. They're doing trainings. One of the groups here, they put on a March Madness event, right, where they had it catered and they dressed up as referees and had a bunch of people show up. They're going to open houses, right? They're showing up at open houses. So they're doing whatever they can do to get in front of people face to face, and they're doing it consistently. This isn't a once a quarter event. This is an event that they're doing frequently, weekly, if not weekly, at least twice a month.
So, John, when you're looking at all the things that you're talking about, and in many ways they're not new, but they are obviously what are the keys to success, talk about the usage. You did mention a little bit about social media and about prospecting. So what percentage of the day would you say this group is actually doing these activities that would be labeled prospecting?
I would say at least 2 hours a day minimum. They're doing some form of sales activity. The social media is twofold. One, they're using social media to connect with the person. They're trying to find some common ground. Where did they go to school? Are they a dog person? They're showing up in their DMs. If they've sold a house or they've got a new listing coming on board, they're in there commenting like, beautiful house. I grew up in the neighborhood across the street. They're interacting with the person on social media to make that cold call warm. The other part is they're getting the information on the person, so when they call them up, they know something about them. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the I would say that's one of the key parts of social media. The other part of it is it's part of their brand, right? I tell people all the time, I don't think social media alone is not going to get you business, but it will absolutely prevent you from getting business because
Mm-hmm.
no matter what you do or don't, the consumer is going to go online to research you. They want to know who
Mm-hmm.
you are, what
Right.
you like, what you're about. They're trying to connect with you. So you have to have some type of presence on there showing who you are. That's just the world we live in now.
So talk about this whole issue, and I'm interested on the number of realtors have that the top salespeople have. In the old days, you could have a few, and that was fine. But today, you're having to do your face to face with a lot more people. So what does that number look like from what you see?
I think it differs, Pat. Like, so our
Mm-hmm.
biggest producer in our office has 6 realtors that send him everything, and
Mm-hmm.
he closed $80 million last year, right? Which is a ton in this market.
Right.
At the same token, we've got a $50 million producer with us that has about 125 agents,
Mm-hmm.
and he is marketing to them all the time. He's in front of them. He likes going that route because they don't ask for as much, right? They're not looking. If you're doing a business with 5 or 6 people that are huge producers,
Right.
there's going to be other things involved. You're going to have to co-sponsor events with them. You're going to have to go on vacation with them. You're literally built into their life. If it's more spread out, and I
Yeah.
think the more spread out approach is probably the more realistic for the majority of people these days. It's probably a wider net strategy where you don't have to get as deeply involved. But
Mm-hmm.
there's multiple ways to do it.
And so when you think about, I'm curious about the percentage of time that they spend with the new realtors, because I often see a lot of, especially underperformer loan officers spend so much time with people that actually aren't doing any production.
Yeah, I think that's a learning curve that only you have to experience. I mean, I certainly was guilty of that early in my career. You know, I remember going to an open house, spending all day there, getting done with it, and figuring out the borrower didn't qualify at all. Right, so that's a more of an I think it's an experience thing. I think it's something you get a feel for that you're leaning on the higher producing LOs to kind of guide you. And, with access to Modex and MMI and Model
Sure.
Match and everything out there, you can look up ahead of time to decide how are you going to do it. A lot of these top producers, they're categorizing their CRM and who they're calling on. They're A players, they're B players, and they're C players. And each
Right.
level gets each level of producer gets a different level of attention.
Well, that's smart for sure. And what do you say? And I see this so often, and I'm curious in what your top producers are doing, is the consistency of working their former customers. That most loan officers, once a loan has closed, then the CRM sends them, an email, and it really is not a personal connection. Is that what you're seeing with your folks?
Some yes and some no. I think the truth is with all these top producers that I've met with or at these roundtables and even with our own team, they really figure out what they're good at. Like if somebody's really good with a realtor, they go all in realtor. If they're really good with builder, they go all in builder. If they're really good at CRM, they go all in CRM. So they focus on their strength and less around their weaknesses. That is one common thing that all these top producers do. What I will tell you, my experience with CRMs is this: if you have to have a CRM, it is a must. It's like a computer. You have to have one.
Hmm.
How you use it will define how much success you have. If you think sending a borrower on an auto campaign is going to get your business, you're wrong. What that borrower is looking for is they're looking for a connection, just like the beginning part of
Hmm.
with the conversation. They don't care it's President's Day. They don't care that it's Valentine's Day. They don't want any of the canned stuff. Pat, these people want your soul, right? That
Right.
is the truth.
Hmm.
You gotta be different. You gotta show up like, hey, Pat, heads up, your anniversary is a week from now. Just want to let you know. Make sure that's on your calendar. Hope all's well. I'll talk
Yeah.
to you next month.
Hmm.
That would be an example of what you really need to do that a CRM may or may not be able to do for you.
Right. And I often see that people don't really, many loan officers don't recognize that the former customers, just because the loan is closed, need to still be worked. It's this issue that you're talking about because you don't know where they could give you essentially other referrals if you actually go deeper in the relationship.
1,000%. We have a loan officer here. She's 35 years old. She has two twins under the age of two. She closed $42 million last year. She works with two realtors, and the majority of her business comes from her, I'll call it circle of influence.
Hmm.
And she is really, really good at connecting with people on Facebook, Instagram, and through her
Hmm.
CRM. That is what she just connects with people all the time. And
Hmm.
so and that's what she's good at. So you're spot on with that. You've got to be able to, you don't want to turn your back on the people that you've worked so hard already to get. You're really your biggest referral source. I bet if the average producer tracked it, I would venture to say 50% of their business comes from people they've already closed.
Yeah, I think you're pretty close to it. I think at different times when I have tracked it, it's somewhere like a third of their business comes from people they already closed. So they're already starting basically with a couple loans a month that they come to them with them ha not having to actually do a new strategy. So yes, I mean, I think you're smart with all of that. Talk about the lunch and learns and the face to face. So it sounds like a lot of the top producers are using the educational kind of approach, but it's really a selling event. And so, and they seem to be comfortable doing that. Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, it can. Some people are, with the March Madness event, right? That was just strictly getting people together and
Hmm.
celebrating the kickoff of basketball. They'll weave a little bit of business in there, but it's a little bit of business and it's the majority of connecting. It's just what you're comfortable doing. And I think if you're doing a lunch and learn, I'll tell you a great idea for a lunch and learn now that we're doing, and feel free to steal this, is we're taking our value proposition and we're taking it to realtors. And we're telling the realtors, specifically the buyer's agent, hey, buyer's agent, the conversation is going to come up now and forever of why somebody's going to have to pay you. You need to be able to articulate your value proposition
Hmm.
to the listing agent and the home seller and the person that's going to use you to buy the home.
Right.
And that would be, if it's human nature. If you give something, you're going to give something back. So you've got to do different things to get people out of their house and in front of you these days. So that
Yeah.
would be a good example, a specific example of something that you could sell.
So talk about that a little bit more under that scenario. In other words, they're obviously using that as an educational event on a topic that's now pretty important and pretty hot for the buying agent. And so is that just something that they continue through the year, or do they move to the next topic, or is this something where you guys have organized the actual presentation and they're just implementing it, or how does that work?
Yeah, I built the presentation out.
Okay.
Be honest with you, Pat, I threw it out on LinkedIn and said, "Hey, if you want to see this, I'll send it to you."
Oh,
Right?
okay.
And I'll give that offer now. If there's a loan officer out there that wants it, I'll send it to you. Just go and use it. Right? So, do we organize it a little bit? Yes, we'll give them the material. We take it out there and ask them to actually use it.
So I'm curious, when you did make that offer, what was the response? I'm just curious.
This, and this is why I don't mind sharing this stuff, Pat. I probably had 15 people say, "Yeah, man,
Sure.
send me the PowerPoint." Because that's really what it comes down to, is that you have got to just go out there and do
And
it.
do it. Yeah.
You have to do it. You've got to show up every day, and the value, that value proposition, you could use that for a year. As far as topics go, when the value proposition runs out, I would be out selling. This is how seller concessions work.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
it's just one to the next. Before that it was buy downs. It's whatever you're doing that day, right? I mean, that's really, you can teach 1,000 different things. It's
Sure.
whatever is hot at the moment and breaking it down, because people don't know what you know.
Right.
They buy a house once every 8 years.
No, it's a good point, and I don't understand why more loan officers don't see their job that way. That kind of does. I have to ask this question. I mean, I see the position becoming more of what I would call an influencer presenter, more so than it was in the past. And a lot of our loan officers are from the old days where they're uncomfortable with that. Is that your thoughts?
My, I still think you have to have you have to have good mortgage technique. You have to
Mm-hmm.
know the fundamentals on
Mm-hmm.
products because if you take conventional out of the mix, the products, especially on the non-QM side, can get cumbersome quickly. So I
Mm-hmm.
think there is still a position out there for a loan doctor. What I think is that a lot of the older generation, times have changed, they haven't adapted to it,
Mm-hmm.
or they just don't want to adapt to it. They don't have the energy,
Yeah.
to actually go out and do it, or the drive. Maybe they made so much money in 2020 and 2021 they don't need to do it. I don't know. I mean, but what I do know is it's what you have. If you want to be successful, you have to keep doing the things that got you successful. And getting face to face is where it's at, and being consistent with it.
Well, we're going to have to have you come back and talk about this topic because I agree with you that what I see is really a difference between the people that are successful today and those that are comfortable presenting in front of groups. I mean, that's just part of our deal today. It's much different than in the past. So anyway, but we have so much more that I'd like to talk to you about, but we only have a few minutes left. So John, why don't you share for our listeners today some takeaways?
Yeah, I guess my two biggest takeaways were: one, take action. You have to do something. If you market yourself and you're intentional about getting in front of people 2 hours a day, it will increase your business. But you have to do it every day, right? The
Mm-hmm.
other takeaway I would tell you, and this is from the group, I just jotted these notes down. This is what a realtor wants. We had a roundtable with realtors, and these were three things they gave us, right, directly from their mouths. If you say no, have a plan, right? They want to hear how you're going to get to a yes. You need to be available. They don't care that you work on the weekends. They expect you to work on the weekends. So don't climb that mountain. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Pre-approvals need to have the income and assets reviewed and signed off on. And then you've got to be great at the closing table. If everything goes well and you blow it up at the closing table, you failed, you and the realtor. So those would be those are my nuggets for you. What realtors are looking for, slash you got to be consistent with your sales calls. You got to do them every day, or your sales activities.
Well, I agree with you 100%. And really, that is the most basic difference between originators is those that do it consistently. But that's the age-old saga for sure. So, John, I want to thank you. And I want to thank all of our listeners for listening today and tuning in. And certainly, if you would like to hear more of the podcast, register at patsherlock.com and receive notifications on the latest podcast. Thanks so much, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Mortgage Manager Playbook. You can catch up on all our episodes by subscribing to receive each week a new show. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and team members. If you're looking to increase production, call me to discuss my prospecting sales training program, Ramping Up Realtor Referral Sources. Check out my website, www.patsherlock.com.